Heat we've experienced has certainly contributed to these drought conditions. And for those of you who are homeowners with yards, you know it's a real hassle to keep things growing. And sometimes we forget about our trees. Do they need to be watered? Well, we asked Charlotte arborist Betz that very question.
So it has been excessively hot, excessively dry. We had a really good spring, so we had all that rain. Trees did great, they flushed out. They may have actually grown more than in years past, and now we've gotten into this section of the summer where the water's shut off. So for larger trees, it's gonna be difficult to get out there and thoroughly water like you need to. But anything smaller, anything ornamental, anything planted within the last 5 to 10 years, I'd say, you know, that's not really big, you can go out there with a water hose, kind of put the hose on it, just barely turn it on. Just let it kind of seep down, and you may let it run for a couple of hours and just kind of saturate the soil. You may only put, 10, 20 gallons of water out, but it's gonna go right where it needs it. So definitely beneficial to do that.
Well, the drought conditions we're facing in the Carolinas also put stress on our trees, right? So Betz says these are the signs you need to monitor to know if your trees are suffering.
Dieback throughout the canopy, so excessive small limbs that are dying off. If you've got thinning sections, if the tree is losing leaves prematurely, that can be a sign of drought stress as well. Unfortunately, with a lot of trees, when you see those signs, it's almost too late to do anything proactive because it's not really gonna offset, the amount of decline by then. Especially with smaller trees, you'll start to see they just look the wrong color. It's usually a sign of decline, that they're going the wrong way, especially with evergreens and stuff that you'll see in an ornamental environment.
Certain trees more susceptible than others?
They can be. I mean, you're gonna have trees that are more drought tolerant than others. Typically a more established tree is gonna be more drought tolerant because it's got a much larger root zone to rely on, where newly planted trees and certain species of trees, you have to think all their roots are in that root mass right where they were planted, so it doesn't take long for all of that to dry out. So if you're leaning towards, you want to stay stuff with trees that are more localized, that are from this area. So willow oaks, red oaks, white oaks. We've had good success with certain species of Chinese elms that do really well because they're pretty drought and disease resistant. Japanese maples, but you'll see trees that aren't from here, that may be from the western part of the state, that look good in the spring, and then once this heat, it doesn't take long for them to start to decline.
What's the end result of a tree that is taking on some drought issues? Is it disease? Is it other things that then can make it susceptible?
It can be. Yeah. It certainly can. I mean, when you have it's just like us, when we get run down, overheated, then you're more susceptible to having, get a cold, something like that. So trees and shrubs are susceptible to disease, but more like wood-boring insects that are going to attack a stressed tree, and then that's going to expedite the decline of that species.
It makes you think of insects and things like that. So we dealt with the cicadas, this spring. Did that have any impact on our trees? Did that have anything
Not that we've noticed. I mean, the biggest impact with those, from what I understand, is they're heavy bugs. So if they're on kind of a smaller tree, crepe myrtle, something along those that are a little more flimsy, those they could break limbs, stuff like that. But as far as them feeding on the trees, it's not their primary host, so hasn't been a big deal that we've noticed.
Also talk about the benefit of having these big trees in our yard when it comes to even our lawn, right? We see the brown spots on the lawn here because it's getting full sun all the time, right? To have that shade, does that help our lawn as well?
It certainly does. It helps and it hurts, because if you've got a big tree, it's going to rely on all that water as well. So then if you're irrigating the lawn, you'll still have sections that fizzle out under that tree because the tree's drinking so much of that water. But overall, it's going to prolong the life of that lawn for the season.
All really good information.